1600 years ago, in the deserts of Egypt, the monks noticed something strange. Around midday, when the sun sat highest and the hours stretched longest, a heaviness would settle over them. Not tiredness exactly, a restlessness. The cell felt too small. The work felt pointless. The day felt like it would never end, and the mind would start reaching for anything, anywhere, other than where the body actually was. It told them to visit a brother in the next cell. It told them the real work was somewhere else. It told them almost anything, as long as it was not here and not now. They had a name for the hour it struck hardest, and they called the thing itself the Noonday Demon. You have met this demon. You meet it most days. It is the pull, somewhere in the early afternoon, to pick up the phone for no reason, to open a tab you don't need, to be somewhere, anywhere, other than the task in front of you. We call it being distracted. We treat it as a small thing, a quirk of a busy life. They studied it as one of the most dangerous conditions a soul could fall into. And here is what should stop you. Modern neuroscience and those desert monks are describing the exact same thing, 1500 years apart, and the monks may have understood it better than we do. They had a precise word for it, and it named a state of not caring, a numb inability to stay present to your own life. It was not sadness, it was not laziness in the way we use that word. It was a kind of inner flight, a mind that refuses to remain. And notice how cleanly that overlaps with the brain. A Harvard study, published in the journal Science in 2010, tracked thousands of people through their ordinary days and found their minds were wandering away from whatever they were doing almost 47% of the time. Nearly half your waking life spent somewhere other than your life. And the same study found something sharper still. People were measurably less happy when their minds wandered, and even when they wandered toward pleasant things, they were no happier than when they stayed present. The monks would have nodded. They had seen it, they just refused to call it normal. So how did we get here? And what did they know that we forgot? And before we go any further, if you have ever felt that midday pull and wondered why simply staying present has become so hard, you are exactly who this channel is for. This is the place where ancient faith and modern neuroscience meet to help you reclaim your own mind. So take 1 second and subscribe, because what these desert monks understood is something almost no one is talking about today. And tell me in the comments while you are here, what time of day does your own noonday demon hit you the hardest? Start with what is happening in your head. Every time you reach for your phone, something new might be waiting. A message, a like, a fresh headline. And your brain releases a small pulse of dopamine. Dopamine is not really the pleasure chemical people think it is. The work of neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz showed it is closer to an anticipation chemical. It spikes for the promise of a reward, and it spikes hardest when that reward is unpredictable, which is exactly what a feed is, a slot machine of maybes. Pull and maybe something good. Pull again and maybe nothing. That uncertainty is not a flaw in the design, it is the design. It is the same mechanism that keeps a gambler at the table long after the money is gone. And the cost is not abstract. Researchers at Stanford found that the people who juggle the most streams of media at once are measurably worse at filtering out what is irrelevant. Worse, in fact, at the very thing they think they are training. They feel efficient. They are not. And a study out of the University of Sussex linked heavy media multitasking to less gray matter in a region of the brain tied to attention and emotional control. The correlation is not proof that the phone carved it out, and it is worth being honest about that. But it should give you pause, because here is the number that lands hardest. Researcher Gloria Mark has spent years measuring how long the average person holds their attention on a single screen before switching. In 2004, it was about 2.5 minutes. A few years later, it had fallen to 75 seconds. Today, it is roughly 47 seconds. 47 seconds. We have built a world that interrupts you before a single thought can finish forming. And then we wonder why we feel scattered, why we cannot sit with a hard problem, why the quiet feels unbearable. Now, science is brilliant at naming all of this. It is almost useless at curing it. It can tell you the gears are stripped. It can map the circuit and measure the damage. What it cannot tell you is why staying matters, or hand you the will to do it when every nerve is screaming to leave. For that, you have to go back to the people who fought this exact battle without a single screen to blame, and who discovered that the fight itself was the whole point. Because the monks did not treat the noonday restlessness as a scheduling problem, They treated it as the central battle of a human life. Stay in the room, they said. Do not flee the cell. The very moment you most want to be elsewhere is the moment to remain, because the discomfort is not a signal that something is wrong. It is the friction of a mind being asked to stay whole. One of their teachers, writing centuries later, put it simply: the one who endures the restlessness without running will find on the far side of it a peace that the one who flees never reaches. They were not romantic about this. They knew it was hard. They simply refused to believe that hard meant impossible. And that word, whole, runs straight through the scriptures they prayed. When Jesus, in the Gospel of Luke chapter 10, gently tells a woman named Martha that she is anxious and troubled about many things, the word he uses for troubled describes a mind hauled in several directions at once. That is mind-wandering, named 2,000 years before anyone measured it, and the answer offered to her is not a better system or a longer list. It is a single, undivided focus on the one thing that matters. St. Paul handed the same idea to the Corinthians in one word: undivided. He meant a mind no longer dragged around, not a detox, not a weekend off the grid, a whole, single attention given freely to what is in front of you. A monk named John Cassian, writing in the early 5th century, described the noonday struggle as a swarm of intrusive thoughts that scatter the mind in every direction, and he insisted the cure was not to flee, but to stay, to do the small work in front of you, to keep your hands busy and your place kept until the storm passed. They did not have dopamine charts or brain scans. They had something arguably better: 1,000 years of watching in real lives what actually heals a fractured mind. And what they learned is that you do not think your way out of this. You stay your way out of it. So here is what staying actually looks like, and you do not need a dessert to start. First, name it. The next time that early afternoon pull arrives, do not obey it and do not fight it blindly. Say quietly, "This is the Noonday Demon." Naming it breaks its disguise. It stops being an urgent need to check something and becomes what it actually is: a wave. And waves pass, if you let them. Second, stay in the cell. Decide in advance on one block of time, starting with 20 minutes, where you remain with one task and let the restlessness rise and fall without acting on it. Do not negotiate with it in the moment. The decision has to be made before the pull arrives. You are not just finishing work. You are teaching your brain, rep by rep, that it can survive the discomfort of staying. Third, guard the eye. In the Gospel of Matthew chapter 6, Jesus says that if the eye is single, the whole body is full of light. A single eye is a clear, uncluttered one, the opposite of a scattered feed. In practice, that means deciding ahead of time what your eyes are allowed to rest on before the pull arrives, because you cannot win that fight in the half second your hand is already moving toward the screen. Put the phone in another room. Close the tab before you sit down. Win the battle early when it is still easy. Fourth, do the one thing, not the list. The one. The monks rebuilt a whole life out of single repeated acts done with full presence. Choose the next right thing and give it your undivided attention until it is done, and only then move to the next. The list breeds the scattering. The one thing heals it. And fifth, rekindle the joy. The Noonday Demon feeds on the sense that nothing matters, that the work is pointless and the hours are empty. The counter to that is not force, it is meaning. Remember why the task is worth doing. Reconnect the small work to the large purpose it serves. Attention, it turns out, follows love. We pay attention, naturally and without strain, to what we genuinely treasure. Here is the part worth sitting with. You were told your attention span is broken, that you are simply a person who can't focus anymore, that the damage is done. That is not true. Your attention is not broken. It is being pulled deliberately by systems built to pull it. And the same restlessness that emptied a monk at noon 1600 years ago is the oldest, most human battle there is. And it can be won the way it has always been won. Not by force, not by a better app, but by staying. And if this has given words to something you have felt for years but could never name, then subscribe and stay with us, because every week we go deeper into this exact place where faith and the brain meet, and you were never meant to fight this battle alone. Give this video a like so it can reach the next person quietly losing the same fight in silence, and then tell me down in the comments which of these 5 you are going to try first. I read them. So the next time the demon comes for you in the early afternoon, and it will, do not reach for the phone, do not flee the room, stay in the cell, stay with the one thing, stay long enough for the wave to break and pass. Because on the other side of staying is the one thing the feed can never give you, a mind that is finally wholly your own. Stay.